Hey everyone, Josh Isley here. Welcome back to the Spaceport, where we are always talking about a certain galaxy far, far away. If you're wondering where else you can find some great nerdy goodness, you can head over to the Best Little Sites Network, where I'm a writer, where I write mostly about Star Wars, sure, but I also talk about some other fun stuff that I like. Some Marvel, some Lord of the Rings, some video games, so check out the link in the description for that. You can also check me out on TikTok, where I still talk mostly about Star Wars, but mostly about my collection here, my Black Series collection. I also talk a little about some of my Lord of the Rings stuff that I've got. So that's where you can find me. If you're wondering where you can find this great sweater, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but it is a extremely limited edition, a one of one, from Mrs. Isley Textiles. Turns out all you need for a cool, unique Star Wars sweater is an awesome wife that can deal with your nerdiness and indulge in it from time to time. And she also has an embroidery machine. So there is my life lesson to you all for the day. So, well, what are we talking about today? We are talking about the Boba Fett story that never was. This was never planned. Don't think that I'm getting this from anywhere. This is actually the answer to a question a buddy of mine asked me a long time ago, almost 10 years ago, during a power outage in our office. His name is James Wright. So James, if you come across this somehow, small world, and I hope Phoenix is doing well. But he asked me during a power outage in our office, Josh, if you could make a Star Wars project, what would you do? And the first thing I thought of was a 2006 action thriller, a gem of a movie called Smokin' Aces. And the general gist of it is that there is a man, a Vegas showman named Buddy Israel. And he's a Vegas showman, a magician, but he has ties to the mob, and he's going to snitch on the mob. So the mob takes a hit out on him. And all these assassins, all these hitmen, all these bounty hunters are racing each other to get to him first and to kill him, because they don't want their payout and the bragging rights of getting Buddy Ace's Israel. But they're also racing the FBI because they want the information, because again, he's snitching. And I thought, man, that would really translate just awesomely, perfectly almost, to a Star Wars, a seedy, underworld story in Star Wars, focusing on, the scum and villainy of the criminal underworld. And of course, you can't tell that story without Boba Fett, I don't think. Is it basic? Absolutely. But this is my Star Wars story. I would love to hear what your Star Wars story would be. But how would that unfold? Well, if we think back to the Revenge of the Sith, when Palpatine announces the new galactic empire, all these senators are going nuts. They're all about it. They're clapping, they're cheering, they're yelling, and Padme says, "This is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause." But there's got to be some sort of time frame where people thought the empire might have been legit, because again, these senators they seem to be cheering. They're all about it. So that's kind of where this story would take place, in a period of time between 3 and 4. And I know it's kind of an overdone timeline. It's like, of course you would tell a story there, but I think that's what makes the story unique, because it would have to take place during that time frame. So under the warm blanket of the Empire is trying to still seem legit, the Empire gets word that there is a Jedi Master that survived Order 66. And what better man to send after this particular Jedi Master than the son of the man that he'd beheaded on Geonosis. That's right. Mace Windu's alive. And because he was electrocuted, had all of his compatriots murdered, his hand cut off, sent out a window hundreds, maybe thousands of feet in the air. He's not all there mentally. You know, he's probably got some severe PTSD. He's probably going crazy. He's probably on the brink of like psychosis. And that's an important part for the plot. Because when he sees Boba Fett, he doesn't see Boba Fett how we see him, how we're accustomed to seeing him. In fact, he sees in his mind Jango Fett. So, from Mace Windu's point of view, this story is actually a psychological thriller. It might be a psychological horror even. So he believes he's going insane. But he's still a Jedi Master, so he can still kick some ass, you know. So Vader tells Boba Fett that this contract will be exclusive to you for 12 hours, let's say, or whatever they call hours in Star Wars. At that point, to make sure that, you know, it seems more like just the criminal world is going after him rather than like the Empire. It's a capture order that goes out to all the bounty hunters in the galaxy. Of course, you know, action ensues, chaos ensues, and Boba Fett, as good as he is, doesn't meet that time hack. So he is now racing all of the bounty hunters in the galaxy towards his target, his quarry, the man that killed his father, Mace Windu. And that's where we kind of draw inspiration from Smoking Aces. There's not really a good guy in this. There's no, you know, there's no Republic anymore. So there's no like legitimate people or like FBI parallel from Smoking Aces in this story because everyone's bad. We have a protagonist, but maybe Boba Fett's not so good at this point still, you know? So, you know, action ensues, chaos ensues. We can have appearances from like Bosk, Cad Bane, you know, other bounty hunters, IG-88. Maybe they'll team up, you know, here and there, but they'll also backstab each other, you know, because this is scum and villainy that we're talking about. So, you know, all the fun action stuff ensues. You can kind of fill in the blanks. I didn't really put that deep a thought into it to specific plot points other than this, other than the ending. Because, of course, Boba Fett has to win. That'd be really kind of lame if someone other than Boba Fett took out Mace Windu. So, remember, Mace Windu is going insane. He doesn't see Boba Fett. He believes he's seeing Jango Fett. So to kind of show off how skilled Boba Fett is, but also still show how, you know, skilled Mace Windu still is, because he is a Jedi Master, you know, of course, because, you know, even though he's going a little insane, he's still a Jedi Master, you know. So we can show that in the final fight that Mace Windu has still got it. But Boba Fett, he's also very skilled, so he bests him. And that's where, you know, we kind of get that breakdown, that final psychosis in Mace Windu. Because rather than running from his fear that he's going insane, running from that ghost from his past of Jango Fett, that he believes is coming back to haunt him, instead of running from it, he challenges it. He says, "Who are you? I killed you. What are you doing here?" So to him, he's confronting his fear, trying to prove that he's not going insane. But Boba Fett, important context, throughout all the movie, the project, Boba Fett does not reveal his face. Because we never saw Boba Fett's face, you know, in the movies at least. But then again, he only had like 10 minutes of screen time. But anyway, excuse me, wow. But anyways, he says, "Who are you?" And Boba Fett says nothing, takes off his helmet. And again, being a clone of Jango Fett, to Boba Fett, he is revealing himself. "I am my father's son. I am the son of the man that you killed, and this is my revenge." His revenge is proving to Mace Windu at least in his mind, that he's going insane. Confirms his insanity. But that's also when we see that Boba Fett this whole time has been portrayed by Daniel Logan. A little bit of fan service, I know, but Daniel Logan, he kind of looks like he takes care of himself. Last I saw, I'm sure he could pull off a Boba Fett flight suit. But of course, he's voiced by the one and only Tamora Morrison. So Boba Fett announces himself as his father's son to his father's killer, Mace Windu. But again, to Mace Windu, he confirms to himself, like, man, I am insane. I am crazy. This is all I am now. He's a shell. And so that's where we get that final psychosis in Mace Windu. But Boba Fett does not shoot him, doesn't stab him, doesn't whatever. But he also doesn't bring him in alive, as per the original contract. He just lifts his arm, drops his hand, and shoots a dart from his wrist gauntlet. And Mace Windu goes to get up. He can't, because from his legs on up, he starts slowly disintegrating. And that is how Mace Windu dies to Boba Fett, exacting his revenge, but not before making that final blow to Mace Windu's mind and his spirit. So he breaks him before he kills him. And of course, this is also a huge nod and reminder that Empire Strikes Back is awesome, because that's why we get no disintegrations. So I don't think you can have any Star Wars movie without a wink and a nod to how great some of the other projects are. But Smoking Aces, I think that sort of idea of all these assassins and hitmen and bounty hunters competing against each other for their target, I think that would translate so well into sort of like a Star Wars underworld story about bounty hunters. And I think that would be the best story to tell. Not because I thought about it, just because I think it's compelling. I think you get multiple angles, like I said many times, from Boba Fett's or from Mace Windu's point of view. It's very much a psychological thriller, almost a psychological horror, for him. But then, of course, from Jango Fett's point of view, wow, I did it again, didn't I? From Boba Fett's point of view, there was a fuzz there, sorry. From Boba Fett's point of view, it's a revenge story. It's, him proving himself also to the galaxy that I am my father's son, but I'm also my own man, I think, too. Not necessarily a coming of age for him, but, proving himself as the baddest dude out there. This whole thing can also end by a jump forward, a flash forward to Boba Fett when he's the daimyo of Tatooine. And, he's there with a journal and a stylus, and he's writing in Mandalorian. Not Arbesh, but Mandalorian. And he just writes. We don't know exactly what he's writing, but he writes, and then he shuts it. And then he dons the helmet once more before panning up to reveal that it's Tamora Morrison. So writing, sets on stylus, closes his journal, pan up, it's Tamora Morrison, and then he dons the helmet. So we can think of that taking place after Book of Boba Fett, maybe some point during Book of Boba Fett, sort of just adding a little bit of a layer to that much maligned series. But what Star Wars story would you tell if you had no budget? Not like you don't have any money, but if you had all the money, if you had no budget, blank check, no left or right limits, what story would you tell? That's what I want to hear in the comments below. I want to hear what story you would tell. I want to hear, maybe a little self-indulgent. What do you think of this story? Have you seen Smoking Aces? If not, there's some homework for you. And, as always, let me know what else you would like to hear from the Spaceport. Like I said, I went on a rant earlier. That's going to probably be another video at some point. But as always, until next time, like and subscribe comment, share, or don't, because you don't owe me anything. You don't owe this channel anything, because this is the internet. None of this is real. So now, this is like the third time I've ended this video. Until next time, may the force be with you always.